Hey everybody, welcome to another live episode of The Grid. We have a really wild show for you today. It's guaranteed to make you mad. But first, let me take a moment to introduce my two co-hosts, because one is just not enough. And by one, I mean Matt Klaskowski.
Hey everybody, good to see you again.
And when you think that Matt's not going to have enough to get you through the whole show, if you think it's going to be kind of light, what do? You bring in RC.
And what's going on, everybody? How you guys doing?
Not really. I just thought RC would really add to today's. We were all
just
having
in our pre-show discussion.
Yeah, we were having a big discussion, and I'm like, RC, dude, you got to come on the show today. Just come on. And he thought he was just going to be on for a few minutes.
Yeah.
He's on the set. I'm going to be to the first break. I'm like, no, you're here for the whole show. He goes, I'm here for the whole show? I go, you don't have anything to add about today's topics? Today's topics are crazy. So
and
it is.
The part that I thought that was funny about that was the fact that I'm like, I don't know. And then he's like, what about this topic? And I'm like, I've got some opinions.
RC has opinions, luckily, on everything.
Yes.
All right. But anyway, hey, I'm very glad to have you both here today, because we have a lot of really wild stuff. This is a show that's going to make some people mad, and I think that most of our shows make somebody mad. So in other words, it's just the same old stuff. Hey, I do want to mention something cool, because I'd hoped to show something today that did not arrive. So on Monday, my wife surprised, well, my birthday was Monday. My wife surprised me on Sunday with a surprise trip. She didn't tell me about it. We get up in the morning, we fly to New First City. First we go, my son came with us. We go to Top of the Rock, checking out everything up there, right? My son hadn't been since he was a little boy, right? Since he was maybe 6. And so then we went, my wife had reservations at Carmine's, my favorite Italian restaurant in the world.
Which is going to make people mad.
I know, because every time you mention Carmine's there, you like that. Anyway, I love Carmine's. It is what it is. Then she took me to Sam Ash, the store on 34th Street.
My favorite store.
To get me this for my birthday. Maybe we can show a picture. Here we go. There it is. A brand new 120th anniversary Gibson Les Paul. And what's interesting is this is in the room where I never buy guitars. So I have a bunch of guitars, but I always buy them like out where the public buys. They always have this room where the expensive guitars are. I don't never go in there because, well, they're expensive. And this one wasn't too bad. And I even used a 15% like a discount that I actually used a Guitar Center discount, and Sam Ash honored it.
Nice.
I know, it's cool. Right? So
as soon as I saw that, all I can think of is I'm expecting to see like a Heil talk box come out with a little thing.
I have a talk box. Matt got me a talk box.
I think RC and I got it for you.
Oh,
for
did you?
Christmas
I love that
years
talk
ago.
box. All right. I even thought of
that
taking
Peter
it to
Frampton kind of thing.
Yeah. So I was going to play it on the show today. I was going to hook an amp and just play and show, but it didn't come in. It was supposed to. They said, "Oh, you'll have it Wednesday." Lie. Anyway, I don't have it. Okay, a couple of things. Do you remember, well, you wouldn't remember, you weren't on the show, but Matt and I talked about a guy who wrote an article, and it was called
His Photoshop Dead.
His Photoshop Dead, right?
About a month ago.
About a month ago, maybe. And so I wrote about it. Anyway, so I heard from the guy that wrote the article, as you might imagine. Now, you have to kind of go back. Was it a month ago?
About a month ago.
Maybe it was a month ago. So go back 3 or 4 episodes and watch it, because we talked about, he wrote an article called Is Photoshop Dead? And then we got to the end, he kind of says, well, it's not really dead, but we were really taking him to task for making a big picture with a tombstone and the Photoshop icon on it. Anyway, so I want to read you the note he sent me, because I think it needs to be read, because apparently there was a bit of a mistake there, and we're going to rectify it right now. He says, "Hey Scott, many thanks for the email and the opportunity." He wrote me on Twitter and said, "Could you drop me a line?" So many thanks for the email and the opportunity to set the record straight. As I mentioned in the tweet, I'm a longtime fan of your work and follow your blog daily. He says, "There's actually been a slight understanding. Please let me explain. The article Photoshop is Dead was actually written by another staff member at Bright Publishing. His contribution to the feature was merely extended, well, his contribution to the feature merely extended to interviewing one of the case study photographers and uploading a teaser of the feature to the magazine website. As the profile pic of whoever uploads the story, not the author of the story, but whoever uploads it, aligns next to the text in the image, it appeared on the website that we showed on the grid that it was actually his feature.
Yeah.
He didn't write it. He said, and this is bad, he says, "It's rather awkward, as I now actually work for a Photoshop-centric magazine published by Bauer Media called Digital Photo. Obviously, it doesn't look great to have my name mentioned numerous times on the internet for trashing Photoshop when I actually didn't write the feature and actually work hard to encourage photographers to take up Photoshop." He said, obviously, I completely understand why and how my name was picked up due to the clumsy way Absolute Photo website is laid out, but I wondered if you would be gracious enough to correct this on a future episode of The Grid. Well, first off, and I have his name here, because he has a cool name, because it's very much like Matt's. It's Matty, right? It's Matty Graham. Is that right? Matthew Graham? But he goes by Matty, yeah. So it's Matthew Graham. Did not write that article. And so our apologies for the misunderstanding. Also, you know what's cool? I mean, it was our mistake, obviously. And we read it and we thought it was your article. But he's being very cool by saying, hey, it's an accident. It's what happened, you know. Yeah. Because sometimes people explode. You know, they're just like, I never said that, you know. But he was really cool about it. Very nice guy. And we've emailed back and forth a few times. But anyway, our apologies to you. You know,
yeah.
So do we know
it was an honest
who
mistake.
it was that wrote the
article? Well, yeah, he mentioned it in the thing here. I think he wrote, I don't know if it was just another staff member at Bright Publishing. So the person that wrote its name is another staff member. So.
I just, see, the part that I had a problem with all of that stuff, and then again, and this is one of those things where I tend to be very opinionated about this stuff.
No.
It's not even so much that the art, that he didn't write it or that a staff member wrote. I can't believe that it went across an editor's desk and they said, yep, sounds good to me. Well, you have a sentence at the bottom that says, well, it's not really dead. Yeah. Let's link people.
Yeah, but that's not really, that's not the issue here. The issue here was that we didn't really credit to the right person. Our apologies to you, Maddie. That was not our intention. And thank you for setting the record straight, and that now our listeners know.
Good old Maddie.
All right. Next. Oh, look, a buddy of mine just said, hey, sweet Les Paul.
All right, giveaways. We got RC's HDR book that will be given away.
So this is the brand new version of his HDR book.
Yeah, the second edition.
And hey, by the way, I was in front of this same building in Prague. And so I'm with these guys, these really cool guys that were taking me around in Prague. And there's 3 guys, and we had such a ball. Anyway, they take me to this building, and they're like, you know it's not going to look like this when you go there. RC was here during this 2-week festival where they light it up. Of course he was. Typical RC. RC happened to be there the day. What I'm surprised is, what RC's life is really like is this. We normally don't light this up, but since you're here, I know the guy who's got the keys to the room that lights up the thing with the special lights. That's really more likely what happens, isn't it?
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes, yes. All right, so we're giving away that. We're also giving away one of the coolest books, Photoshop Down and Dirty Tricks from Corey Barker.
I tell you, if you're a photographer or a designer, I mean, that's there is not a person who cannot get, and I will say this hands down, there's not a person out there that's got a more amazing book on tips and tricks and techniques
than Corey's book.
Hands down.
Now, he calls the book Down and Dirty Tricks for Designers, but it all starts with a photograph. Almost everything in there starts with a photograph.
It's actually more like photo special effects.
Yeah, it really is. It's
special effects for photos.
But I think because Corey probably thinks of himself as a designer.
Yeah.
But it's really, it's like a lot of movie poster effects and different kinds of, I mean, there's type effects, there's all these different things, but almost everything in there starts with a photo.
You can get pretty much lost.
So if you're a photographer, you're thinking, why would I want to win that book? I guarantee you this book will blow your mind. All right.
Boom.
One more thing, and then we're going to get to today's many, many topics that will make you angry. So Photoshop World is coming up next month, all right? It isn't, no.
2 months.
2 months. It's coming up in September. So if you're a Photoshop User Magazine subscriber, when you got your magazine in the mail, we took a brochure and stuck it inside so you would know. But if you're not a subscriber, you can actually go download a PDF of the brochure. Right now, it's the full brochure. You can see all the classes, instructors, and the whole 9 yards, all about it. Just go to this address, http:// it's kel.by, so like my name with a dot in the middle, kel.by/PSW14 for Photoshop World 14. And that's what comes up. Boom, look at that. There it is. It's the whole thing is right there, the whole Photoshop World and the workshops, and you can choose your different tracks. There's a picture of me and my butt. There's conference sessions. It's all there. So anyway, it's free. Go download it. I mean, no one pays for a brochure, right? So it's only $1. No, it's completely free. Go to kel.by/PSW14, and you can download it right now. And I think everyone that is watching right now, whether you're already signed up for Photoshop World or not, should just go download it just for good measure.
Just go ahead.
We'll wait. Nah, let's take a break. We're going to take a break. When we come back, a bunch of stuff that will make you mad, a bunch of topics that we have, interesting stuff, but it's one of those ones where you'll either go, oh yeah, or like, My head exploded. It'll just make you mad, or you'll agree. But there will be nobody will just be in between on any of our topics today. We do want to hear your comments and your questions and everything else, so please just leave us a chat here. Matt, take us out.
See you back here in just a minute.
Wow, it's good.
I know.
Good.
I've been practicing.
We could have let RC do it. He's new.
Looking for a better way to learn Lightroom? At Kelby One, you'll be learning from people who literally wrote the book on Lightroom, including best-selling author Scott Kelby and Lightroom instructor Matt Kloskowski. Scott and Matt lead a team of some of the best-known names in the Lightroom education field, who've come together to create the most comprehensive Lightroom training anywhere. You'll have unlimited access to full-length online classes that cover everything you need to know about how to use Lightroom like a pro, from start to finish. But these in-depth online classes are just the beginning. As a member, you'll learn even more about Lightroom from our monthly print magazine, Photoshop User, which has an entire section dedicated just to Lightroom users. Also, you get access to our Lightroom Help Desk, where you get private, one-on-one answers to your Lightroom questions, including troubleshooting, concepts, you name it. For years now, the creative world has turned to us as the resource for learning Lightroom, and now you can too. Whether you're in Lightroom Pro or a brand new user, this is a training program that grows right along with you every step of the way and is exclusively here at Kelby One.
Hey everybody, we are back live on the grid with our special guest, RC Concepcion.
What's going on, everybody? So now, listen, one of the things that we wanted to do, just because I know that you're going to be working with the Photoshop World Conference, you want to take a look at the brochure, whether you're thinking about it or not, you want to go take a look at the sheer magnitude of what it is to go to this conference. I think that you think it's a 3-day conference on photography and Photoshops and things like that, but there's much more to it. There's a lot of different topics. There's a lot of different things that you can kind of pick and choose to do what you want. I thought it would be a good idea for us to
RC's really just he's trying to buy time.
You're trying to buy time for me. I appreciate it. Okay.
Go to this link.
Go to my computer here. There's the link I kept trying to describe to you for the brochure.
It'll just be a lot easier if you do it that way.
It's a PDF. Yeah, sorry. RC's like, why don't you just make a white screen? It'll like take me 10 minutes. I kept forgetting what I was doing. I'm like in my email and stuff. So here's something interesting that happened on the break, because the breaks here, they're chaotic. Arnaldo's like yelling stuff and Brad's yelling stuff.
Go to your email. I'll set it up. So we're on our way to the break. What? Oh, iMessage. Go to your iMessage and check it out.
Freak.
So we're sitting here and we're going through this conversation about it. We're like, oh, that's pretty cool that he told us this.
That he wrote in.
That he wrote in, and that we had a.
We're talking about his Photoshop dead guy.
Yeah.
Right. So Brad turns around and goes, guys, you might want to see this. And he posts this link.
Wait.
Okay, wait. Give us 1 second.
Wait for it.
Okay, let's just set it up.
Hold on, I gotta go full screen. Okay, yeah. So here's the page where we got it from Absolute Photo. And the part I want to point out is right here. So this is why we thought it was by Maddie Graham. It says
Written by
Maddie Graham. All right. My mic. Okay, so here's why we thought it was by him. It says written by Maddie Graham. Over here, you're right. There's his picture and his email address. But it's
Maddie Graham, you might want to talk to Absolute Photo, because if you didn't write this article, they think you did.
Yeah. Whoever wrote it, that person's name should be here and not yours. But we're still.
Well, he explained why.
Yeah,
he explained it.
Yeah, but I think he'd explained this, that his thumbnail and his name down here is whoever uploads the article. But it does say, written by Maddie. I lost it. There it is. Written by Maddie Graham. So, Maddie, I'm...
Go talk to those guys, because I don't think they...
Yeah.
They have some explaining to do.
Hey, look. We already made our first person mad. Maddie's like, no.
Already.
All right. So first, we're gonna start off today's topics. We have a bunch of little mini topics. Our first topic is, so last week we did our blind critiques. Now, blind critiques, and if those of you haven't watched our blind critique show, our thing is that we try to tell the truth. And because no one's really going to tell you, we're going to talk about that in just a moment, but no one's really going to tell you too much about what they really think about your photography. No one's going to tell you, dude, you stink. So, but the opposite happened inside the chat. So last week we brought up a picture of those of you who watched the show saw us bring up a picture of a bird. So a photographer sent us in mostly bird pictures, and they needed some work, and we were kind of like, yeah, this isn't very good, and this stuff. But I'll let RC take it from here because you were in the chat. So RC wasn't on the show, but he was in the chat, and so we're talking about the bird photo, and I throw it to you.
And that's where it kind of got a little weird. And a lot of the times I like to go into the chat and just kind of take a pulse of what people are talking about at that moment in time. But the one thing that disturbed me was the fact that in the chat, when the bird picture came up, people are like, why are we wasting our times with this picture? This picture sucks, or this isn't even a shot. I can't believe they sent this in, and blah, blah. And why can't we get to the good pictures? Why can't we get to the good pictures? And the way I understood it was, why can't we get to my picture? And that's totally cool. If you want to see your shot and it's getting there, I could understand that. But people are like, let's get to the good pictures. Let's get to the good pictures. And I'm like, man, that is some messed up stuff right there, because I would assume that anybody that's watching a show on photography critiques is probably an amateur photographer getting started, wanting to get better, maybe even a pro to find out. But you're on the path of photography. So you get on the path to photography and you're concerned about submitting your pictures to a review. So let's say that you consider yourself an amateur. Then somebody who's maybe a pre-amateur submits a picture and asks for a critique. And the moment that you jump, it's like everybody's fair, everybody's okay, everybody's equal. But the moment you become an amateur, it's like you turn around and you're like, suck it, plebes, you guys suck. And it's like, it felt so wrong that even at an amateur level, you're spitting on somebody behind you.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, that's not cool. I'm like, everybody here has a picture that sucks, myself included. Everybody has pictures that suck, and everybody's on that path at one point or another. It doesn't matter. That person, female, lady, actually had the strength to turn around and go, these are my shots. This is what I think is good. Tell me what you think. And you guys went around it and you guys were like, this is a picture. This is a picture. Yours is not a picture. This is a picture. You weren't nice, nor did you need to be. But at the same time, I thought that it was good that you turned around and you said, separate this from this distance, separate this, isolate this element, use this lens. And in the chat, I wrote, now she got exactly what she wanted. She had somebody who was truthful to her, and she had somebody who gave her advice on how to be able to take it to the next level. And what made it even more messed up was the fact that she was in the chat room. So you have all these scores of people that are like, let's get to the real picture. This part sucked. And I'm like, that's where we've gotten. The moment that you take a picture.
I'm surprised though, because I don't, because we can't see the chat room when we're on the show. So I wouldn't think people, it usually seems like a different kind of audience, especially, and what I would say is especially for that one, because number one, I thought that was probably one of our more helpful critique shows, because there were so many moments like the bird one where sometimes it's hard for us to say what's wrong with the picture and show you a better version of the picture and how to get that. Because then I think you're truly helpful in the critique. You've said what's wrong, and you've told the person how to get better.
Yeah, you went to 500px and you showed another picture and said, see, this is kind of what you're aiming for.
And you're not always able to do that. But in that show, we were able to do it. So anybody watching saw what some photography that needs improvement was, and then how to get to a better photograph. We did it with a silhouette too?
Yeah.
Because we had a silhouette in the beginning we said we loved, and we had a silhouette in the end and we said we didn't like it, and we were able to go back and say, this is what's wrong, here's what's good about this one, here's how to make your photos better.
Now, because you guys don't see the chat, it is something that I've seen like on a common basis. Like people will turn around and say something along the lines of, they didn't get to any really good pictures. Or they didn't really, like the pictures that they did just obviously sucked. And I'm like, you're missing the point.
Yeah, that's not the point.
You're missing the point.
It's not to just showcase good pictures. We can showcase good pictures all the
time.
Go to 500px and click go, go, go. Hey, so I do want everyone that's watching at home to understand something about this. So while we can't see the live chat because we're talking, we have two people monitoring the live chat. And Brad right here is on the set with us. So if Brad sees a comment that he thinks we should see, we have a huge screen. God, it's like 70 inches or something. A giant screen. And he puts it up there in big letters because we're old. And so that we can, that's why we say, oh, look, Bob said something, or, you know, we see those. I think Brad's going to take a picture and and put it in the chat. So Brad wrote, everyone in the chat is agreeing with you. Say something inflammatory. Anyway, that was a note to RC. But anyway, but here's what, and this is what I think the big problem here is, because when you're saying move on, go to the next picture, get to something better, I think what you're really saying is they don't deserve a critique. Get to my image or get to something that I find important. But you know what? That woman stuck her neck out. When you take, anytime you, can I tell you something? Anytime you take a critique, I don't care where you are in your career, I don't care how long you've been doing it, it's rough and you're putting yourself out there. Sometimes it comes out good, sometimes it comes out bad. But in that person's case, you know, somebody wrote, that's what they needed to hear. And RC said that just a moment ago. I think she needed to hear, you're not there. And I talk about this on my tour quite a bit. I actually talk about that a lot of times people don't know what a good photo is. So how are you going to make a good photo if you don't even know? Like, you sent those photos in on the bird photo, and you're like, this is pretty good, right? This is my best stuff. This is good. But here's what it comes down to is, this is why the truth is so important. This is why there has to be somebody that tells you, you know what, I'm sorry, it's not good. It's just, this is a snapshot. This looks like a cell phone photo. And there is something that happens between a snapshot and a photograph that is bigger than this. It's this. And you know what happens? Because a lot of people will never, ever actually make that jump. They will take snapshots their entire life. And the difference between a snapshot and an image, or a snapshot and a real photograph, is unfortunately the hardest, is the thing we can't teach: talent. I know we're never supposed to talk about that in photography. We're never ever supposed to say that someone was born better than somebody else. But it's the absolute truth. And you know who really nailed this? Was Zach Arias. Zach Arias, we tried to find the video to show you today. We weren't able to do it. So I'm going to have to paraphrase what the video was, but this is about from 3 years ago when he did a critique. Now, we can find the critique blog, but the blip video has been removed, or we were going to ask Zach if we could show it today, and he's very gracious. I'm sure he would have allowed us to. So we're going to have to paraphrase. Zach says, you know, I know that there's people that are so passionate about photography. They love it so much. But he says, I'm really passionate, this is Zach talking, about music. I'm super passionate about it. No one loves music more than I do. And in the video, Brad, does he walk over to a piano? He walks over to a piano and clunk, 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 it just sounds horrible. And he's like, as passionate about as I am, and I have a piano, and I love it, I don't have any talent for playing piano. Then his wife, Megan, sits down. She's unbelievable. I mean, she's like a recording artist. She sits down, and she's amazing. And you know right there, she's got talent. In music, it is so easy for us to go, you have talent, you don't.
Yeah, music sounds bad or it sounds good.
If I hand Matt a saxophone and he starts honking on it, immediately everybody tells him, don't do that. But when it comes to photography, I'll tell you what, in photography, we do not do that. It's just not done.
You know why?
Why?
Go ahead.
Well, I don't know why, but I go ahead, tell me.
Because I know music is considered art, but I think people see it in a different way, which is why somebody will tell somebody, oh my God, don't play, that's not good, stop. But photography is also considered art. And whenever anybody talks about art can't be bad.
Art can be bad.
You can't, no, because everybody hides behind it. They'll post a photo and they'll post a bad photo. Somebody will say something about it and they'll say, well, this is art and art is how I see it.
It's subjective.
It's subjective.
Right.
It's different from music for some reason because I guess it sounds bad.
But that doesn't help anybody. That really, really doesn't do, because you know what it is? There are some people that they're just not a photographer. You're just not one. You're very passionate, like Zach said. You have a great camera. You love photography. You suck at it. And somebody needs to just go, but nobody will do it. Nobody will tell you you suck at it. I know, I think I mentioned this in that show a couple of weeks ago. I know a guy who works at this company. He sucks. He's just absolutely terrible. And I'm looking at his work and I'm like, oh my God. And he takes it so seriously and he's talking to galleries and he's doing all this stuff. And I'm like, it was like that bird picture, but in a nice portfolio. Picture that bird picture printed large in a printed portfolio, and you'll turn the page, you're like, oh. So anyway, so finally one day somebody says, what'd you think of his work? And I'm like, what did you think of it? They're like, oh, he's awful. I'm like, oh, thank God. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they're all telling me, oh, God, he's terrible, he's terrible, he's terrible. Nobody will tell that guy. Nobody will go over and go, dude, but you know what it is? Here's the thing. This is the key thing. I don't think it's training. I don't think that you could say, it wasn't his exposure. It wasn't he used the wrong lens. It was he takes snapshots and will always take snapshots. He has no idea what a good photo is. And we've run into this. We know people that you look at their photograph and go, how would you share that? Why would you put that online? It's so bad. But they don't think it is. And you know, it's like anybody that has a psychological problem, the first step is admitting you have a problem. That guy thinks he's really good. And the people that we're all talking about, that we know, and we're not going to mention any of their names, they don't know either. They look at their stuff and they think, I'm kicking ass. And so RC and Matt, who I think are phenomenal photographers, always look at their own stuff and go, well, this is crap. They always look at their stuff. I do. These guys, but these are really good photographers, and all they ever think is how bad their stuff is. Here you have someone who's legitimately bad, and he's thinking, I'm going to galleries. I'm like...
Because no one's been honest with him.
No, because no one's told him.
And this is where I think that the bird lady picture, where she's better than most, and this is where I think, and I'm unabashed about what we do at Kelby One and what we do in these kinds of shows. It's not that, don't misunderstand the message that says you suck, you should put this down, you should never do this again. It's more to understand that there's a part of that process that you should go through. You could suck right now, and through training, through consulting, through portfolio reviews, through sitting down and going, I'm not gonna do this, I'm gonna just sit down, listen, and practice it again and go through it again, you might unearth talent. That
Maybe.
Could happen. You can also understand that it might not happen, but at least you're being honest. It's people being honest with that person and that person being honest with themselves. And I think that when a photographer is truly honest with themselves, like that lady who submitted those pictures, she said, what do you think? What can I learn? And she takes it and she goes on her own way. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But the entire time, we're always like we want to be this person, we want to be this person, and we never focus on the process. You go out and you've had portfolio critiques done. Painful?
Yeah, always.
I mean, you've had critiques. You come out of it. I wanted to point, I hijacked your computer because I just wanted to tell the story for 2 seconds. This was a picture that I was proud of a couple of years ago that I did.
I remember this one.
So this picture is a picture that I did. Let me see if it comes up, if I get a full-size picture. So this was a picture that I did, and I use this in a lot of the classes that where I talk about the pain of photography. So this is a picture that I did of this guy named Rob Hurricane Peacock. And he has a trick shot that he does where he hits the ball on a bank, goes over, hits the ball in the corner pocket. This was a stroboscopic shot that shot 2 seconds, but the stroboscope only went for 1.5 seconds. Then there was a fake rear curtain sync with a second camera that's off camera right high with a trigger. These lights, like how do you set this up?
That's complicated.
Yeah, how do you set this up to stroboscope one thing so that doesn't burn? There's no lights outside. There's like 9 speed lights that are involved. I talked to Joe about it. And I told him about it, and he's like, that's going to be tricky. 6 hours later, I figured it out and get any advice from him. I was so proud about it. And I sent it to Dave Hobby. And I was like, Dave, what do you think, dude? I'm like, I got this down pat. Like, this is trickery. I got it. And he looked at it and he's like, this is a technically perfect picture, desperately trying to find a home.
So you pulled off the technical.
Yeah.
But it sucked. And I walked away like somebody had punched me in the gut. I say that to say,
I remember that, dude.
anytime that you have a critique, it's supposed to be that way. It's not, so I wanted to go back and talk about that kind of stuff. It's not supposed to be pretty. It's supposed to be honest. It doesn't have to be mean. It just has to be honest.
So let's go back to the talent thing.
Talent.
Because I think most people agree critiques should be hard. I mean, there's a few people in the chat, but I think we made a good point. Like, critiques are going to be harsh.
Right.
So back to the talent thing. Is that fair to tell people, like, well, you got to have talent?
Can I say something? We have never on this show, in the years we've been doing the critiques, we've never told anybody, you shouldn't be a photographer, you should sell your gear, you're just not going to get it. Can I tell you something?
Hold on.
There's times we should have.
We do say you should sell your gear. We say it in a joking way because somebody actually wrote, wrote in this past week after this last show, and he said he loved the show. He said, but he said he just cringed when we say you should sell your gear, and so he was really nice about it. But
we never said it intentionally.
I wrote back to him and I said, I got to tell you, you might be able to point me somewhere different where we said it seriously to somebody. I don't ever remember saying. We usually say it as a joke. Maybe he tuned in right at that point.
Yeah,
we're like,
oh
man, sell your gear.
Sell your gear, you know, but it was a joke.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever, I don't
till today.
We've never said that to anybody.
Today.
And I can honestly say, even in our conversations on the side, we've never said, oh man, that person really should sell their gear. Like, we don't say that.
No, we don't say that. But at the end of the day and we're going to read some comments here, so we're going to have to take a break here in a second, but at some point is like, everybody wants to apologize for the talent thing. Well, now, and I think all the comments we're going to read are probably going to be along those lines. I can't see them because Brad's got a giant break thing. Where's the cute thing you write about the breaks? You always write some little...
He wanted to go immediately, so I didn't.
Oh, he wanted to go immediately? Okay. We'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk about this. Here's a break. It's immediate. It's just break.
There you go.
That's not entertaining, Brad.
Bye.
Break. Hey, we're back. Scott Kelby here with Matt Klaskowski.
Hey.
RC Concepcion.
What's up?
We're talking about being truthful on reviews, on critiques, and things
talent.
like that, and talent and stuff like that. So
now, there's a couple of different comments that have come in. Now, keep in mind, if you guys want to join the conversation, make sure that you mention #TheGridLive on Twitter to join us for the conversation. Kirk kicks us off with, fundamentally speaking, people who get angry about or defiant about a critique don't actually want to get better at taking pictures. Even if it's your first critique, usually painful, if you come away with this, if all you come away with is indignation, then you don't enter it with the right attitude in the first place.
Kirk, well said.
Good job.
No, that's true.
Right.
You know, when you ask for a critique, you do it because you want to get better. If you're asking for a critique so someone will tell you you're good, you're not going into it with the right. Because if they don't tell you you're good, then you're just, oh, well, they're idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. You'll just keep going on and finding someone. But if I can say, you don't have to find somebody else to tell you you're good. Just put your stuff on Flickr. They will line up to tell you it's good. Scott King says, this is an annoying topic. That's kind of snarky, Scott.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Well, he's mad.
No, I'm just kidding. Scott and I have been going back and forth on Twitter with this snarky thing. It was people on the internet being people on the internet. The #1 rule is not to feed the troll. That's true. In fact, I bet most aren't regular Kelby One watchers and we're just the flakes that show up only to see if their photos get critiqued. That's harsher than we are, Scott. This is the one I want to talk. You read this one?
See, I kind of agree with Scott too. So
no, I know. I'm kind of with
it's an
him.
annoying topic.
Yeah.
Now, Ricardo.
Oh, that's why I wanted you to say it, because I wanted you to say Ricardo.
Ricardo says,
I love the way you say that.
Both photography and music people. No, born with the skill is a talent, but you can train if you dedicate your time. If you dedicate time of your life to something you like. Dedication is a major key to be good at something, be it music or photography or any other type of art. I'm awful at painting, but I take some decent pictures because I dedicated time in my life into something that I can really work with, and my initial photos were awesome.
Awful. Okay, first, Ricardo, I just want to challenge you with this. I don't care how bad you are at painting, I guarantee I'm worse. Number two, so I tend to agree with you, Ricardo, but I want you to understand something. So I used to teach drums back in the day. And I worked at a music store, and that's what I did. That's when I was younger. That's what I taught drums. And there would be people that would come in, and I knew the day that I taught their very first lesson that they had zero talent. and they would work, and we'd work together for a year. And I'm a pretty decent teacher. I taught drums pretty well, I think. I thought I was a good teacher. Anyway. So at the end of a year, that person could play a beat, and it sounded so stiff. So it was like, and then there are people that are born with a groove, and they just have the groove. And it's not something you can teach. So could that person play drums? Yes, they could technically play drums. Are they any good? Nope. And they'll never be good. He could practice for 100 years. He just doesn't have it. And then there are people that walk in and they pick up a set of sticks and they just know what to do. And it's just, it comes to them. I remember the first time hearing my son play drums. The first time my son played a beat, and it was like, and I just showed him, say, you're gonna play eighth notes on the hi-hat. You're going to do this on 2 and 4. And I just showed him what's called the basic pattern in drumming. And he played it, and he was like, oh my God, he's got it. It was like, it was in him. He's someone who could turn out to be a great drummer. Because he was, and it's like we're trying to say, if you work hard enough, you'll be good. No, you won't.
No. I say if you work hard enough,
no, I'm not
you
saying
can
that.
be
You
good.
said that.
No.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you work hard enough, you can be good.
You'll never be really good.
It'll be really, really hard to be
and
great.
And you'll never take the pictures you'll never take the kind of pictures that you want to take because it's just not in you. But you know what? That's okay. It's okay to take crappy pictures and just have crappy pictures and all. But I think it really, you have
to hide behind art, though.
Yeah, don't hide behind art because that.
But see,
matter.
Here, this will piss people off because I don't think photography is art.
Yeah, see,
I think photography is a craft.
God, there's so many good comments here.
I disagree with you on the entire art situation because I believe that I believe that there are inherent rules in art. Like when you paint, there are art versus music versus all these different types of things. Like my wife's a ballerina, right? So she does ballet. There are inherent rules in ballet. So when you turn around and you
always got to bring up the my wife's a ballerina thing. Well,
no, but it's like when you dance, and I always tell people all the time, I'm like, if you're doing a tango, there are specific things that you do to do a tango. If you show up and you try to do something different, if the foot's off or if the timing's off, you can see it. If you try to play blues and you go off of there are specific inherent rules in art, in anything, paintings, drawing, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a box from which you can judge it. I just think that we take a lot of liberties with that box.
Yeah. Hey, can we just? I just want to bang through these. We're not gonna talk about each of them. I think that they all make really good points, and then when we need to go on to our next topic, Monty La Montagne.
La Montagne.
La Montagne. Monty La Montagne.
Bonjour.
There seems to be a growing misconception these days. There seems to be a growing misconception these days that the natural progression for any artistic pursuit is to do it for a living. Unfortunately, not everybody can do that because it requires a lot of other skills beside talent and skill as well. Being passionate about a hobby can be ruined by doing it for a living. That is very, very, very insightful. Mike O'Brien says the best critiques are given by the best photographers. Scott, Matt, and RC are top notch. If you get critiqued by someone who's worse than you are, it just doesn't ring true. By the way, anybody that writes a comment like that will always be read aloud in the air. Thank you, Mike.
We like Mike.
Mia McCormick, our own Mia McCormick. I think it makes a difference who is saying whether you have talent as a photographer. Remember Regina, the portrait photographer, Regina Pagels? She got a letter saying that she wasn't any good. Well, she got a letter saying that she was stale, and he goes, what if she listened? You know what, that was the problem, was she did listen to, unfortunately, someone who had no business giving that kind of stuff, and it really hurt her. But she's come out the other side, and she's doing amazing work, as you know. So anyway.
There is a difference, though, between seeing it and feeling it.
Yeah, there is. And so, but it's just a weird thing because I know that it is something that we try not to talk about. I know that we don't really want to talk about talent. But it is a very, very real thing, and it's not just alive in music. It is alive in photography. We've all met people that have a great eye or a talent or whatever it is, and those people are going to create amazing work.
Great work.
Even very, very young people that you'll see some of these new up-and-coming photographers. You see some of the student competitions, you're just like, oh my God, these kids are so good. Yeah. You know, and that's like, they haven't had time, they haven't had the experience, they haven't had the years, but you know what they do have?
Talent.
We're not supposed to talk about it, but yes, talent. So anyway, but I just want everybody to know that whole talent thing comes into play on every show of the grid. There are people that just see the light, that just have a knack for lighting, that have a knack for composition, that maybe they're not that great on the camera, but they know enough to go to a fabulous landscape and take a beautiful shot in the first morning light. There are things that you can do that, but at the end of the day, that's the great equalizer. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I said at the very beginning, there's something that takes you from snapshot to creating images, and it's that gulf in the middle. Is not learning aperture. It's not learning the menus in your camera. It's not learning which lens to use. It's developing talent.
That's
okay.
The part. You said not learning aperture.
All right.
Because they're dead. Sorry.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our next mini topic because we don't have that much time left. But so this is a story, I don't know if you heard this week, it was on national news, really, really, really big news. So there was a show called the Opie and Anthony Show, right? It is on XM. I'm an XM subscriber. And now these guys were known as, and I'm putting this in quotes, shock jocks, right? Mm-hmm. So they have like, they've been fired from a number of different stations. They've been suspended or fired from a whole host of stations. And now they have this, and they're in the right place. XM, they have all kinds of crazy stations and they let you do what you want. Well, Anthony was in Times Square, New York, which I was just there the other day. I don't know if I mentioned that. Was in Times Square taking pictures with his camera, and a woman comes up who thought she was in his camera, thought she was in one of the pictures, and assaulted him. Anyway, he went on Twitter and went off on her. Now, he went too far. He went so far, he got fired because he let it get on he went beyond just her and him and turned it into a racial thing, and he got fired. And to have the show that he had and still get fired, it was pretty bad. So anyway, but I'm not here to talk about that. What I want to talk about, though, is that's where we are today. He's taking a picture out in Times Square of the sidewalk. A woman walks into the frame, and she thinks he took a picture, and she comes over and assaults him. That's amazing. Now, that almost happened to me in New York City. Now, I don't want to just impugn New York, but I don't do photo walks. I do it in big cities. Mm-hmm. So I'm leading a photo walk that started in Washington Square, heading down Fifth Avenue, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm walking down, and I see the Empire State Building in the background, and I see an awning that says Fifth Avenue. And I thought, well, that's kind of like a little cliche kind of thing, the Fifth Avenue awning, the Empire State Building in the background, and I start to take a shot. Now, I'm leading a group of maybe 50 photographers, right? So this is an organized photo walk for fun. I take the picture, and as soon as I'm bringing my camera down, a guy starts screaming at me. Every word you can imagine, threatening me, and he's going to kill me, and he's going to kick but he's yelling at me as he goes by, and he wasn't in my shot. I literally have, so I'm aiming like this, right? So I'm aiming straight ahead, but I'm aiming up so I get just the Fifth Avenue awning coming out of the street and the Empire State Building. He thinks in some level, and he's screaming and yelling at me. Now, he goes walking by and all, but you don't want anybody in the New York street coming up and cussing at you on a level that I couldn't do here. It doesn't sound like RC. Anyway, so just kidding. So anyway, but I got to this point, and this happened in the last couple of years, where I realized I don't want to be a street photographer. And hearing that story about him, not him getting fired, but him getting assaulted on the street, or allegedly, made me realize that why I don't like street photography, and why I think that for some reason, I think for many reasons, street photography may be just endangered as a genre. So, and I want to tell you the moment. So I've done 3 classes now with Jay Maisel on street photography. I did a day with Jay Maisel, which is a Kelby 1 training class. I did another day with Jay Maisel, both in New York City, and then we did a week with Jay in Paris. Now, I want you to separate street photography and Jay Maisel. Jay Maisel is an absolute living treasure of photography. One of the nicest, big-heartedest, great artists of our time, and he's brilliant, period. Now let's talk about street photography. So I'm with Jay in Paris, and we're walking around. And I'm walking through the Luxembourg Gardens, and there's a woman reading a newspaper. I don't know what it is, but how people who don't even see you're there, when you put a camera on them, all of a sudden it's like they look up. She's reading a paper. It's a quaint little park. She's on a little bench. I'm far away. I see her. Oh, that looks like a quaint little scene. I go, boom, and she looks up the second. She starts yelling at me in French. I have no idea what she's saying, but she starts yelling at me. And she's yelling at me, and as I'm walking by, I'm sorry, anyway. So I leave, and I don't want to say I was shaken up. I mean, she didn't threaten me or anything, but so we went on. Well, this happened here and there. It happened on a subway. It happened just here and there. People are getting angry and upset. They're getting angry at me. They're getting angry at my friend Mike. They're getting angry at Jay. They're getting angry at whatever. We are about to cross the Champs-Élysées in Paris. Now, that's the big main boulevard. It's a very, very wide street. It's like 10 lanes wide. But it's a pedestrian, there's shops on both sides. And we're just about to go, and a woman, I just have to explain this. There's a barrier up because there's going to be a parade, some kind of a military parade. So where normally the sidewalk is very, very wide, this was a little alley, and we're getting ready to cross the Champs. She turns into this alley, and so she's from here, she's maybe 3 times the width of this studio away, 20, 30, I don't know. Jay turns to take a shot of her. He takes a shot of her, and she explodes. I mean, she went off like a grenade, screaming in French. Now, Jay doesn't speak French. I don't speak French. Nobody around us speaks French because our French interpreter was with a camera crew across the street. She is going off. And so as we turned to walk out in the street, like the light changed, and we were like, oh, thank God, because she was going crazy. I mean, she was screaming and pointing her finger. And so we turn onto the street, and she keeps walking. And we're like in the middle of the street, and we're shaken up. We literally are. We didn't think our lives were in danger, but you don't see people get that mad, that angry, that often. She stops, turns, and runs out into the center of the Champs-Élysées and starts all over again, screaming and yelling at us. I mean, just absolutely going off. And all Jay can say is, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I didn't even take the picture, and I'm sorry and all. And it was kind of at that moment that I said to myself, I don't think I want to do anything that makes people this angry. I don't want to take pictures of people and have them furious at me for doing this. I'm invading their privacy. And I never really, once I saw that response. Now, the guy in New York, I kind of blew off. He's just a crazy guy in New York, because sometimes there's crazy guys in New York. You know.
That happens on every corner.
Right. So that's like, oh, well, he was just crazy. But here I've seen a number of people, and it led up to this. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so, but here's was a turning point, and we did a whole show of the grid about it. So that night, I'm talking about this at dinner. So I'm at Le Train Bleu, a very nice restaurant in Le Gare Nord. Okay, it's in a train station in Paris. Fabulous restaurant. I'm there with my friend Mike and myself, and I'm there with my wife and our friend Barb. So we're all sitting there having dinner. And I'm telling them this story. And so we get on the topic of how women feel when they are photographed by a street photographer. And I was stunned. We were completely just absolutely stunned. And so here's what they said. First, my wife says, well, the first thing I think of, she goes, I become very self-aware when someone's taking a picture of me. Like all of a sudden, like, well, do I look okay? Do I look wrong? Is that why she's taking a picture of me? Is my hair messed up? Is there a bird in my hair? Is like, why, first I want to know why
What's wrong?
But then the second thing she says, immediately I want to know, what in the heck is this guy doing with my picture? Is it going on the internet? Is it going to be printed up in his closet? Where is this picture going? And then Barb says the exact same thing. She goes, I feel threatened when that happens. I don't know what the intention, and we're like, and Mike and I are like, we're stunned. We're just like, I'd never even thought of this kind of stuff. So we started asking other women, and they're all like, oh yeah, if anyone so we did a whole show on the grid, and this is going back probably 2 years to find that episode. I wish I knew the number of the episode, but anyway, every woman we talked to was pretty much the same. But there were a couple of things that were interesting that we took out of this. Number one was, like, Jay talks to you about using a very small lens, trying to be inconspicuous, and they were like, oh no, if I see a guy take a quick picture of me, he's trying to look the other way, and she goes, oh, we think creepy guy. Immediately,
that adds to the creep factor.
Yeah, they said, if you're using a big lens, we figure you're a professional, maybe you're going to sell it as a stock photo or something. She goes, but if it's a small lens, the first thing we think is?
Creeper.
creepy guy. And you know what? When you talk to street photographers today, a lot of what they're saying they're doing is, how can I sneak a picture? How they're like taking pictures using the viewfinder flip back, and they're walking and just taking them, and that is what it's become, is
Target practice.
it's target practice, but you're sneaking pictures of people. Does that not sound creepy? And so when you hear from a woman's perspective of what an unsolicited person coming up, and now here's what was interesting. You know what they did say? They also make a decision, a snap decision, based on the photographer. If it's a good-looking guy, they are not nearly as concerned as it is if it's someone who's not good-looking. So, like, if it's a really good-looking guy who wants to take a picture, like,
What's up?
what's up? But if it's
you
not,
doing?
and they said if the guy looks creepy, then of course emergency creepy goes up. If the guy's tall, if he's physically imposing, if he's like, and so all these things led into it. But the general consensus was they are. Now, I haven't talked to every woman on the planet. All we could do was we talked to different friends. We had people calling into the show, different things. And the general consensus of the women that we all talked to, I didn't find any single woman that said, I'm perfectly fine with strangers taking pictures of me. And so between what happened that night and all, that was the night I realized, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be a street photographer. I don't want to have a genre of photography that makes other people angry. It's just, I don't want to make people think I'm creepy. I don't want to make people feel threatened by my photography. I don't, it's like,
I don't want to have to feel like I'm sneaking when I'm taking it.
no. And you know what? Like, I'm very, very like conscious of that at all. So like, let's just say that I am in the studio and I'm shooting a model, right? I don't ever touch the model. I never physically go over and move their hair or do any, I mean, I'm like I always want to be seen as very professional. I don't ever like touch the model. Brad goes in there, let me move your hair, and he's all over him and he's rubbing him and stuff. But I'm like, I don't ever touch the model, male or female. It's like I'm always trying to keep.
I asked permission first.
Oh, Brad does ask permission. Brad
like,
says
what
stuff
does
like,
this do?
"Can I remove your top?" He says all kinds of crazy stuff. No, he doesn't. Brad does touch the model, but I would never do it anyway. But that whole
It sounds so wrong.
it does sound wrong. But here's the thing: is like, and so that's just a weird. And I'm not saying that you should not be a street photographer. I'm not saying that. But you know what? When you hear what happened to this guy Anthony, and I'm not saying whether he's right or wrong, and his tweets were, his tweets were terrible, and that's just my own opinion. But anyway.
A lot has changed in street photography.
A lot
between
has
then and now.
changed in street photography between then and now. And like, I think like today, Jay Maisel can get away with a lot of stuff because he looks like a kindly old man, But at that, I saw people freak out. And so it's just.
I'm not getting away with getting street pictures.
Yeah, you'll never get a
I'm
street
not walking
picture.
around and
They
just
go-
like, normally I'm like with a bandana on and things like that. People are going to be like, that's a creeper.
Right, but what the interesting thing is this is something that people will argue about a lot, and they'll say, well, I don't think people feel threatened by it at all. I'm like, that's because you haven't talked to other people. And so when I told Jay this stuff, I sat with Jay and it went in the next day in the lobby and said, Jay, we had this weird, and Jay was like, really? I mean, he was as surprised to hear it as I was, because we're just walking around and we're basically stealing people's pictures. We're taking a picture of them. And we're not really walking over there. See, like with travel photography, I'll try to walk over and show them the picture and kind of make it. But with street photography, you're trying to get candid, unscripted moments. And you're putting a lot out there to do it. And I think that as privacy laws, what did I just see about, didn't the Canadians just pass a rule? Was it the Canadians?
Somebody,
Because you know stuff.
somebody did just pass a
think it
law
was-
about.
Well, I know. Well, so listen to this. I went to Prague. Was it Prague? No, Hungary. In Budapest, they passed a law that you're not allowed to shoot pictures of people without their written permission.
Oh, really?
I didn't take any pictures of people when I was in Budapest. Now, I don't know how well they enforce it or stuff, but I just didn't shoot people. I shot everything else. I shot subway cars. I shot the opera. I shot whatever. But I went out of my way not to include people in my photos. And I mean, even with a big crowd scene, I don't know you can do that, but. I certainly didn't take any pictures of individuals, and I would have always done that in the past. And that's just travel photography. It's not street photography. But the essence of street photography is capturing people. Mm-hmm. You're not going to take a picture of a brick. You know, oh, look, there's an interesting brick. That's an interesting wall. I mean, you're waiting for someone to walk in front of an interesting wall to make the picture.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was just something. And I realized there in Paris and then at that dinner and all that. And then when I saw this article this week about him getting attacked, I'm like, I could see it. I could see him getting attacked. I could see someone thinking, you have no right to photograph me, and da-da-da-da. And then I'm not saying that she was right in attacking him. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying I can see it. I can see some people getting crazy about it.
You'll often hear Jay, because it kind of goes to the street photography thing, because you often hear Jay say, and he says, you know, Jay, any workshop, any place, he says, always have your camera with you.
Yeah.
And I purposely never have my camera with me. I know exactly when I want to shoot.
Right, because you're a landscape photographer.
Because I know what I'm shooting. So when I could have my camera with me and something crazy could happen out there, and I'd be like, okay, that's just it's not what I want to shoot.
You're
but
more
if
likely to grab it with your phone.
Yeah, if you're a street photographer, then you never know what's going to unfold in front of you, and you've always got to have that camera in front of you because you're trying to get that moment.
Yeah.
You're trying to get that never been seen. You know, it's going to make a great photo, but it's just it's very different for when you do have a camera.
So what's going to happen to street photography? As the rules get tighter and people get more concerned about their privacy,
I think that there's been a kind of a permutation of street photography that's happened. I mean, there's something to be said about capturing a life experience at this one point in time and this kind of stuff, like Bresson doing his kind of work. And I think that
was a different age.
Well, and I think that what's happened is, in my opinion, I think some of it has been perversed by my inalienable right of owning a camera. It's like, since I get to own a camera and I get to do these kinds of things, I get to go take pictures out in the street and I get to dictate what's a really, really good scene, and I get to throw it up in front of your face and make the picture. You tend to be my artwork. And I think that
was a good line. You tend to be my artwork.
Yeah,
that's a good.
And it's one of those things that I think that what's happened is we've kind of lost that. And I think there's people out there that are doing really, really good work, far away work, different slice of life work. And I don't know, but I do know that a lot of street photographers are going out there to try to find the bum on the street, the person with the ass crack hanging out, the person, the fat person walking down the street.
Shot.
And it's just,
you have one of those.
Yeah. But what happens is, and I think that what happens with most of that stuff is that the subjects tend to become targets. And you can see it in street photography when they're your targets, when they're your subjects. And I think that there's a difference there.
All right, I got something. So it just kind of hit me because we're talking about the future of street photography. I personally think it has been on the decline, and I think it will continue to be on the decline because of the rules and the laws that are getting passed. Because 40 years ago, you go out and take a picture of somebody, and in many cases, you could use that picture and never really have any repercussions from it. Mm-hmm. Today, so you're a photographer that's hoping to make, let's say you're hoping to make money from your photography. You're not just going to put street photography up in your house of some random person on New York yelling at somebody. Mm-hmm. So you're hoping to do something with this work. Your options are severely limited in doing anything with this work with street photography today. Mm-hmm. Because now you need a model release, and not many websites are going to ever do anything with that photo that you took if you're not protected by it. So now the uses of street photography are severely limited, I guess I would say.
No, and I agree that they're going to be severely. I don't think it's going to be that much of a decline, because I think that what's happened with a lot of these rights, these privacy rights, is where it's not allowed. It's not allowed. What's happening is that circle, the reasonable expectation of privacy, is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. Yeah. Right. Where you could stand in the street and have an expectation of being in the public eye. Now people are going, well, when you stand in the street, it is private, and I am just walking on a street that happens to be public, but my space is private. What happens when the first person turns around and goes, well, if that's the case and I'm walking in a private street, what about all of these advertisements that are around me invading my personal space? If a camera's invading my personal space, then what about this ad for Sony, or this ad for Nikon, or this ad for this? If all of a sudden that's invading my personal space, then how do you get those guys out? Well, you can't get those guys out because they paid for it. So I think it creates a really, really bad slippery slope where all of a sudden it's like, well, if you can't do it, then no one can do it. Yeah. But why don't we do this? Let's take a quick break. Because you want to find. I'm
trying to find this Canadian thing. If anybody out there has a link to it, and I could be wrong, but I thought this was just something because it was almost like I saw a tutorial on how to stay within the rights for. They passed some law, and it could be very different than what I'm saying, but there was some law about photography passed in Canada last week. I don't know what it is, and I'm not finding it under the search terms that I'm looking for. I saw it this morning, I think on Zeit, but I don't have my Zeit with me.
So let's take a break.
Yeah, let's take a break. Brad he put a funny thing in there. Break for the creepers.
Nice. Time
Good.
for the creepers.
Nice, nicely done. Stick around. Hey, when we come back, we have giveaways, but we also have a couple more things to talk about here. So don't go away. You're live on the grid.
Hey, Corey, we're going to that new pizza place across the street after work. You in?
I really wish I could, man. I'm under deadline with this book. I gotta get it done.
You're a machine, Corey. You're a machine!
Well, you have no idea.
From the robotic compositing mind of Corey Barker, learn step-by-step Photoshop tricks, type effects, extracting, textures, Hollywood effects, and really badass 3D. Photoshop Down and Dirty Tricks for Designers, Volume 2. Your mind will be composited away.
Everybody to the grid. My name is RC, and I'm here with Scott Kelby. I'm sitting in as a substitute.
You are, but you're doing it like a boss.
I trying, man, trying. So we got Matt Klaskowski, Scott Kelby. You got a correction on the people thing.
I did. So it wasn't photography. It was about Canadians passed a spam law last week, and I saw some video about like how to get around the spam law. Or luckily, I don't send too much into Canada.
But I did want to talk about one thing before we leave.
Yeah.
Before we leave, because I thought that was kind of cool. It was a good plug for you and a good plug for a couple of people that we work with. Huffington Post and iFi. Huffington Post ran an article that talked about the 30 most influential people, and this was iFi that produced it with a company called Evolve. So it's not Huffington Post. It was iFi and somebody else got together and they generated based on a whole bunch of statistics.
It ran on Huffington Post today.
And it ran on Huffington Post today. Just want to be correct about what we're saying. The 30 most influential people that they have on social media.
Socially influential.
Socially influential people. Number one, Jeremy
Cowart.
Which I was
All
just
right,
like, yeah, man, good on
Jeremy.
him. It was really, really nice. And
Number two, Joe McNally. Come on.
So I thought that was really good. And there's a lot of people that were on this list. There's a lot of people on that I have some. I'm just gonna keep quiet. But you were on that list as well.
Yeah, number 8. I was excited there.
I thought that was really, really cool. There's a lot of people that I was like, that's pretty cool. Like I expected Joey L. I expected LaFerre. And
Vincent LaFerre.
And it was one
I
of
love
those,
Vincent.
And it was one of those things that I was like, this is really cool. But at the same time, one of the things that I felt was, I don't understand how this worked. Now, there's a couple of concerns that I had. One,
well, he said how he did it. He said he did his own. Whoever wrote this thing, they did their own thing. They kind of came up. They looked with what you call it. They looked at like clout scores, and they looked at Twitter followers, and he actually on Huffington Post. I'll have to find that. Give me just a second. I'll find the Huffington Post one. He explained
the whole process.
He came up with his own thing. He didn't just use clout. He used.
Does anybody use clout anymore?
I don't know. But he didn't just use that. I have a good clout score.
Great.
You can't
get ever seen it?
I never show my clout score.
I know, because nobody cares.
I tell
somebody cares.
I tell people all the
know.
time. I'm like, people treat their clout score like their credit score, and I'm like,
I've never shared my clout score. I'm going to share it now.
I stopped even checking.
I'm at 82. 82. Come on. Woo. 82. Clout score. I don't know what that means. Is that good? Is it bad? Is that bad?
Yeah, I don't even.
I don't know.
I
Go for the close up. Go for the close up, Arnaldo.
Dun dun dun.
Wait.
Dun, dun, dun.
Is that bad? Is that good? Is 82 good? I don't know.
No, it's just I
George.
There's an over preoccupation. But here's the thing, and here's the thing that messed me up about it. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. on that Twitter list, there's a lot of people that I expected to see. There's also people that I would have thought would have been there, like based on the fact that our Data J job is following the photography space. We follow the photography space, we follow the Photoshop space, we take a look at all of this stuff. So when things happen, you would think we'd hear about it because we spend all of our time online. So when I saw that and I didn't see some people in there, I was like, oh man, that's kind of weird. Like, how did that person not get it?
Yeah, there were some people really high ranked that I'd never heard of before. I don't mean that in a bad way. And there's people that, like, I would have thought Zach Arias would have been way up there. I would assume Zach would have been number 2, number 3. So there's
people on that list though that I thought shouldn't have been on that list.
I don't know, but here's how he put it together. So he said, this is the guy that wrote this, Mark Fiedelman from, he is the CEO of Rainforest and a Forbes columnist. So he wrote, this is what he wrote. After extensive research and a weighted average formula, I have developed using data from Littlebird, Google, Twitterland, Clout, and other sources. The following 30 photographers have the most social engagement on the web. So he put together his own thing, you know, and that's legit.
Engagement is very different from influence.
I'm not arguing.
I don't know. And that was the other thing that I had a concern with. And that's what I'm saying. It's not the most popular thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was great that he did it. And I was very surprised to see a lot of those results. There were some that I was just like, I don't understand it.
Hey, you know what though? I was just happy I was included in there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm on the list. Woo! All right, so
I thought it was cool.
Look. So Jasmine Starr edges me out. I just edge out Trey and Lisa Bettany and Thomas Hawk. But then Ken Kaminsky, bam, he comes in. Ken's a really nice guy.
Joey L.
Joey L's very, very... Vincent Lafayette. I like Vincent Lafayette. I hung out with him in Vegas, you know, early in the year. He's a really cool guy.
I thought it was really cool to see Mark Thorpe, Philip Bloom, and Jake Olson. I thought
that
was kind of neat.
Scott Bourne in there. Jerry. Look at Jerry.
David
Hobby down at 26.
Peter Hurley.
Now, Peter Hurley, would you...
I would have thought Peter would be higher.
Peter Hurley would have been number 2 or number 3 or number 1. Peter Hurley, the guy's like an institution.
He's losing points because of the hair.
It is. It's the hair, isn't it? Well, he changes his hair a lot.
That's why he's losing points.
But Peter Hurley is very engaged in, like, Twitter. And that was another interesting thing. You would go in here and click on some of these people, and, like, they would have 30-something thousand Twitter followers. And you're like, but Peter Hurley's got 10 times that much, you know? And so I don't know. He used some, you know, method. But anyway, I saw this today, and I was very, very tickled. Brad sent this to me this morning. And so... I'm honored to be in this list, and especially with so many cool people and some people I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
But I'm not on the internet or
Good
anything very often. Anyway. Hey, so, man, nobody but Scott King has anything to say today. So mostly it's a Scott King day. Today is, as you know, Wednesday is Scott King Day on the grid. So... Scott King, I'm reading yours just so you get in trouble for this. Scott King wrote, Trey Ratcliffe wasn't number 1. He's so dreamy.
Now, does he mean that tongue-in-cheek?
I don't know. Scott, he's very snarky. Anyway, I don't know. Hey, just want to mention, there's some big stuff happening tomorrow, Thursday. Scott King is snarky. He's a snarkmeister.
He is a snark.
He snarkity snark.
Yes. Speaking of number 2.
Joe McNally, number 2.
On the list.
Right. So here's the thing. Tomorrow, we are releasing Joe's class. That it was taped. It is a live photo critique.
Nice.
Now, we did it on location, and people, they didn't just email stuff. They come up and sit with Joe. They sit right beside Joe. It was, you ever have a night where you go see a particular performance, and it's literally like magic? Like absolute magic. It was one of those nights. Let me tell you what. Joe never touched a camera. Joe never showed a photograph. Joe never mentioned a flash or anything, never taught anything. And at the end of the night, he got a spontaneous standing ovation from the crowd watching critiques. That's how good that class is. It goes live tomorrow on Kelby One. If you're a Kelby One subscriber, go watch it. Absolutely. It is just an amazing... Joe tells stories. First, he tells some stories about his own life and his critiques and stuff. And there's a story you're going to hear, and you're going to know when it happens. And your jaw is going to drop. When I asked Joe the question, what was the harshest critique you've ever had?
Oh, God, yeah.
When you hear this story, you're going to realize you can go and get any critique from anybody and survive it. Because when you hear what Joe, it was, it sucked the oxygen out of the room. The whole crowd was like, I mean, there was this moment of silence where nobody knew what to say. It was staggering, and you just have to hear it because you're thinking, how bad could a critique be? Could they tell him, oh, you should never shoot again, or something? It was so much worse than that. You just got to hear it. It's stunning. Also, I just want to mention, every Thursday we add new classes. We used to say we add one class. We had one class a week, right? That's what we always used to say. Kelby 1, we like to do one class a week.
At least one class a week.
Yeah, we try to
sometimes
do
more. Sometimes two, sometimes
you know how many
3.
classes we're doing this year? I saw today. Just this year, new classes, 173. Jesus. We're never doing one class, hardly ever. Every once in a while, we do one class a week. So last week, we came out with 2 classes. Number 1 was an unbelievable interview with Gregory Heisler. Oh. Gregory Heisler is just an amazing, he's not just an amazing photographer, he really is. But he's like another Jay Maisel. You know, he is just one of those guys. He's so smart and so witty and so charming, and he's very inspirational. So we had an interview class or an inspirational class with Greg last week, and we had a class on using the Lightroom plugin for SmugMug. So if you're a SmugMug user, which there's a bazillion of those, I use SmugMug. SmugMug? We're all SmugMug users.
I did the class. So
did you do the class? Wow, there you go. But we had people asking us. So I know there's a plug-in for SmugMug. And so Matt did a nice little class on here's exactly how to get the most of if you're a SmugMug user. So if you're a SmugMug user, go and watch the class.
Yeah, pretty neat. They got some cool stuff.
Yeah. All righty. So, we also have a deal. Tell them about it, Matt, or whatever your name is.
It is. Oh, okay, there it is. It's the Peach Pit e-deal of the week. So 40% off of...
Living the Dream.
Living the Dream. This one's by Corwin Hybert.
And it's called Putting Your Creativity to Work and Getting Paid.
All right, so you get 40% off. Go to peachpit.com/Kelby1. Enter the code Kelby1. Easy.
There you go.
All right.
Easy.
Contests. Corey Barker's Down and Dirty Tricks for
down,
Designers.
It's dirty.
As we said, starts with a photo.
Can I hijack this real quick? Go back over to that Kelby 1 class. I spontaneously do want to do this.
You're
for
so
anybody who's
spontaneous.
for anybody who's getting into the world of video. Because one of the things that a lot of people don't know about Kelby 1 is that we do have classes on video production. We've got classes that are coming up on Premiere, that are coming up on shooting. If you've never done it, this one class right here.
Mia's class, she crushed it. Everybody's talking about this class.
Yeah, and I wanted to point it out
Yeah.
because I know that she's going to be like, oh, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. But I'm like, dude, she knocked this out in 24 minutes. It's a small class. You should be able to just jump right in, jump right out. You want to know
I love it because
whether or
it's
not?
short.
Yeah.
Yep.
You want to be able to know it? Oh, there you go. That's pretty cool.
I want to find out where Joe's got a class coming up in August. There we go. Well, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I wanted to give away a ticket to Joe's tour. So Joe McNally is out on tour with us with his The Power of One Flash tour. He is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That's right, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He's going to be there on July 24th. That's like in just a few weeks.
Yeah.
Right?
2 weeks from
Right, Matt?
today.
2 weeks from today?
2 weeks
Yes,
from today,
God.
I'm going to give away a free ticket to Joe's. So if you are in Milwaukee, don't like say you want to win the Milwaukee ticket if you live in like,
Jersey.
Jersey. Thank you. I was stuck for a place.
Jay-Z.
Then just go to, show them where to go to enter the contest. We'll give away Joe.
All right, don't forget, we're also giving away RC's HDR book, the second edition, so you can win that one too.
Hey, can I say something else?
You can.
We got to give another ticket away. Joe's in Boston on July 28th. So on July 28th,
tickets.
so we'll give away a ticket to Joe's Boston class and a ticket to his Milwaukee class. He's just amazing. You know what? Every time Joe does a seminar, I get emails from people that were sitting in the audience that just go, I was blown away. I mean, people just rave. He is the magical unicorn of Flash.
Well, he said, you know what? He's a great instructor, but he's such a good storyteller. So.
Oh well, he tells stories. He tells stories with his photography.
Yeah.
But he's a storyteller. His stories, when he just talks to you in person, are just. Well, you'll see. Watch that class tomorrow. You'll be blown out.
Okay.
Where do they go to enter the contest? Did you do that yet?
Kelby1.com/webcasts/contests. Pick the show, put your name in, and most importantly, just leave a comment on which prize you want to win.
Yeah, if you want to win the HDR book, or you want to win Corey's book, or a ticket and the city, and we'll hook you up. Well, my friends, the time is it's 21 minutes ago. The show ended.
Yeah, Brad just like left.
Yeah, Brad just like he did. He literally his laptop is gone. He packed up. I've never seen that.
Tweet if you're still watching the show. Here, I'm going to go check.
Tweet. Literally, cameraman walked out. No, he's actually Ronaldo's still here.
They're still
Yeah, but
here.
it's just him.
All right.
Sticks, what's up?
Nobody's tweeting. Come on, somebody tweet if you're still watching.
There's no one watching, dude. There was no one watching to begin
I'm
with.
refreshing. Come on. Somebody just you don't have to write a long message. Just say it's still there.
This is just broadcast internally to our employees.
I'm still there for the 81-minute show.
All right, it's a long show. It's a long show. Hey, thank you for tuning in. I want to thank all our sponsors
Really
for
sweet.
sponsoring us. And RC, where can they learn more about you?
Best
They
place
can
to go.
just drive by your house at this point, can't they?
And just be like, what's up? Just aboutrc.com. That's pretty much everything that I do socially, and everything is there.
Matt, where can they learn about you?
MattK.com.
And what about you?
You know everything you need to know about me from today's show. From today's show. I bared my soul. I don't like street photography.
StreetPhotographyHaters.com.
No, go
is
to
where you find Scott.
Go to scottkelby.com, or you can see me on Twitter. Did I mention my clout score is 82? Is that? He's not even at the
Okay,
camera.
hold
Dude,
on.
You're not even at the camera. I can't do any camera stuff.
Scott King's still
Why-
watching, and Doug Blemker is still
Why is
watching.
there? Oh, they switched. Hold on. Is that good? Is 82 good? Is it? I don't know. Okay.
Hey, to all two of you, thank you for watching.
Both of you, thank you. Scott King, you're snarky. RC, do you have anything? Take us out, RC. Get us out of here.
Anyway, see you guys next week here on the Not So Snarky Greg. Take care.
Snarky, snarky grid.